The galaxy was vast, filled with countless star systems and species far more advanced than Earth. Humans had barely scratched the surface of space exploration, with only a few space stations orbiting their home planet. To the other species in the galaxy, Earth was a young, undeveloped planet, an insignificant speck in the grand scheme of things. It was easy to overlook and even easier to manipulate. The Galactic Council, a coalition of powerful alien species, ruled over most of the known universe. They controlled trade routes, planetary resources, and even the laws governing space. For centuries, they had turned a blind eye to the plight of Earth. They saw humans as primitive, unimportant beings, nothing more than a source of raw materials for their ever-expanding empires. One of the Council's many projects was the exploitation of Earth's resources. Massive ships from various galactic species landed in remote corners of Earth, taking what they wanted: minerals, water, rare elements, and leaving the people with nothing. The governments of Earth struggled to protect their resources, but they were no match for the technology of the Council's advanced fleets. The Council had sent emissaries to Earth many times, but these were not peaceful visits. They came to assess the planet's potential, often using deceit and manipulation to weaken Earth's governments. The human leaders, desperate to modernize their nations, had no choice but to comply with the demands of these powerful aliens. In return, they were given promises of technological advancements and protection from other galactic threats. But these promises were lies, carefully crafted to keep Earth in a state of dependence. Despite the constant exploitation, most humans were unaware of the true nature of their situation. The Council had perfected the art of subtlety, making their control seem like a mere business arrangement. They played humans against one another, keeping Earth divided so that they would never unite and challenge the Council's influence. It wasn't until one fateful day that everything changed. The Council had targeted Earth's oceans, where vast new energy sources had been discovered, energy that could power entire star systems. The Council's fleets arrived, their ships hovering ominously over the seas, ready to strip Earth of this new resource. They were confident that the humans would cower in fear, just as they always had. What the Council didn't realize, however, was that this time, they were about to make a grave mistake. On the surface, humanity appeared to be as helpless as ever. Governments still squabbled, the world's great powers distracted by internal struggles. But beneath this veneer of chaos, something had begun to stir. For years, hidden away in the deepest corners of Earth, human scientists had been working in secret. They had reverse-engineered alien technology, using their intelligence and determination to unlock the secrets that had been kept from them. It was a slow process, but humanity was learning. They were learning how to fight back. The first signs of rebellion came from a remote island in the Pacific. A small group of resistance fighters, led by a former scientist turned military strategist, launched an attack against one of the Council's supply ships. The operation was supposed to be a small, unnoticed strike, a distraction at best. But it was more successful than anyone had anticipated. The alien ship was severely damaged, and its crew was forced to flee. The news spread quickly, but no one in the Galactic Council took it seriously. It was just one isolated incident, they thought. Humans were too weak, too divided. They would never be able to organize a serious resistance, but they were wrong. The attack on the supply ship had awakened something in the hearts of humans. They were tired of being controlled, tired of being seen as nothing more than tools for the Council's use. A spark had been lit, and that spark began to grow. Soon, small uprisings broke out in other parts of the world, each one more daring than the last. The Galactic Council, still blind to the true danger, laughed at Earth's feeble attempts to resist. But they were about to learn that humanity was not as weak as they thought. They were about to learn that Earth had been humiliated for the last time. The news of the successful attack on the Council's supply ship spread like wildfire across Earth. It started as whispers among the resistance, but soon it became the rallying cry for millions. The world, long divided by borders, religions, and ideologies, suddenly had a common enemy: the Galactic Council, and humanity was ready to fight back. The first sparks of rebellion had been small, isolated events, but now they grew into something bigger. Across the globe, people who had once been helpless against the Council's power began to rise. In hidden bunkers and underground labs, scientists, engineers, and former soldiers started to work together. They weren't just fighting for freedom, they were fighting for the survival of their planet. The resistance was still disorganized, but their spirit was undeniable. In the jungles of South America, small groups of guerrilla fighters launched hit-and-run attacks on Council patrols. In the cities of Europe and Asia, peaceful protests turned into violent clashes as humans fought against the alien enforcers sent to keep them under control. The Council, for the first time, was facing a challenge they hadn't anticipated. What the Galactic Council didn't understand was that humans, though small and weak by galactic standards, had something that the advanced civilizations didn't: determination. The aliens had never encountered a species so willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of their home. The Council, in their arrogance, had assumed that Earth would be easy to conquer, that humans would bow to their superior technology and might. But they were wrong. As the uprisings grew in number, the Council's representatives began to notice. The first response from the Galactic Council was to send more enforcers, advanced soldiers who could wipe out human resistance with ease, or so they thought. These enforcers were trained to deal with rebels, to quell uprisings before they could spread. But what they found on Earth was different from anything they had encountered before. In the streets of New York, a small group of resistance fighters ambushed a Council patrol. It was nothing more than a well-executed attack, yet the response from the aliens was swift and brutal. They sent drones to attack the humans, but the humans fought back, using whatever they could get their hands on: guns, explosives, even improvised weapons. And they won. The Council's drones were destroyed, and the humans, emboldened by their success, began to strike harder and faster. The Galactic Council, now aware that Earth was not going to be an easy conquest, sent a special envoy to assess the situation. This envoy, a high-ranking officer named Dreshnek, was known for his ruthlessness. He had quelled uprisings on countless planets, wiping out entire populations with little more than a wave of his hand. He was confident that Earth would be no different. But Dreshnek's arrival on Earth was met with an unexpected challenge. The humans had prepared for him. They had learned from their earlier attacks, and now they had something new: alien technology. After years of secretly studying the ships and equipment left behind by the Council, the Resistance had developed a weapon capable of disabling the advanced alien technology. It wasn't much at first, a small device, no bigger than a football. But it was enough to make Dreshnek's fleet nervous. They had never encountered a species capable of turning their own weapons against them. The humans had learned to hack into the alien systems, using the technology they had gathered over the years. What had once been a tiny spark of rebellion was now becoming a well-organized resistance. Dreshnek, frustrated by his inability to contain the situation, began to call for reinforcements. But the reinforcements never came. The Galactic Council, so accustomed to dealing with planets that crumbled under pressure, had underestimated the strength of Earth's resolve. They thought that humans would eventually break, but instead, the resistance only grew stronger. In every corner of the world, people were fighting back. In the deserts of Africa, rebel fighters launched attacks on Council mining operations. In the icy wastes of the Arctic, scientists were secretly building new technologies, preparing for the day when the humans would no longer have to hide. The resistance had gone global, and the Council was losing control. Humanity, once divided and oppressed, was now united by a single purpose: to rid their planet of the alien invaders who had taken so much. They were no longer afraid. They had seen the power of their own determination, and it was a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. As Dreshnek looked out over the battlefield, he finally began to realize the truth. Earth was not a weak, insignificant planet. It was a world on the rise, and if the Galactic Council didn't act fast, they would lose everything. The spark of rebellion had ignited. There was no turning back now. The Galactic Council had long believed that Earth was a mere nuisance, a planet too primitive to cause any real threat to their dominance in the galaxy. But with each passing day, as the resistance grew stronger and more daring, the aliens began to feel a sense of unease. Humanity had shown courage in the face of overwhelming odds, but the Council was still confident that their superior technology would be enough to crush Earth's defiance. However, they were about to face something they had never expected, a weapon unlike anything they had ever encountered. For years, hidden deep beneath the surface of Earth, a group of the planet's brightest minds had been working in secret. Scientists, engineers, and former military experts had gathered in underground labs, pooling their knowledge to create something that could turn the tide in humanity's fight against the Council. They knew that they could not match the aliens' technology in terms of sheer power, but they had something else: creativity and an unwavering determination to protect their home. The weapon they had developed, codenamed PAX, was a combination of alien technology reverse-engineered and humanity's own ingenuity. It was an advanced artificial intelligence, capable of infiltrating the Council's systems, disabling their ships, and turning their own weapons against them. For the first time, humanity had a fighting chance. The PAX system had been tested in small, controlled environments, and the results had been astounding. It was able to breach the security systems of alien ships, rendering their advanced shields useless and causing their weapons to malfunction. But testing on a small scale was one thing. Using it in a real battle was something entirely different. The resistance leaders had their doubts. They knew that using PAX could be a gamble, but the risk of failure seemed far less terrifying than the alternative, allowing the Council to continue their domination of Earth. They decided that it was time to unleash the weapon. The first real test of PAX came when a massive fleet of Council ships descended upon Earth. They had come to deal with the resistance once and for all. Thousands of soldiers and drones landed on Earth, prepared to wipe out the humans and restore the Council's control. They were confident that this time they would succeed. As the battle began, humanity fought with everything they had. The resistance launched waves of attacks, but the Council's fleet was massive and powerful. For a moment, it seemed as though Earth's forces might be overwhelmed. But then, something incredible happened. As the Council's ships deployed their devastating weapons, PAX activated. The AI had been designed to analyze alien technology in real time, finding the smallest weaknesses in their systems. Within moments, the first wave of Council ships had their weapons disabled, their shields flickering and failing. The alien pilots were confused, scrambling to regain control, but PAX was already one step ahead. The humans watched in awe as the alien ships began to spiral out of control. Their weapons turned against them, firing wildly at their own forces. The resistance fighters seized the opportunity, launching a coordinated attack on the vulnerable ships. The once imposing fleet was now falling apart, piece by piece, as Earth's forces pressed their advantage. The Galactic Council, watching from their command centers, was in shock. They had never imagined that a primitive species like humans could create such a powerful weapon. For the first time, they felt fear, not just for their fleet, but for their entire empire. If humanity could develop such a weapon, what else were they capable of? But the Council's response was swift. They sent reinforcements, more ships, more soldiers, more drones. They believed that they could overwhelm Earth's forces with sheer numbers. What they didn't realize was that PAX was evolving. As the battle raged on, the AI began to adapt, learning from each alien ship it disabled and becoming more effective with every passing minute. With each new wave of Council reinforcements, Earth's resistance grew bolder. The humans had discovered something that gave them hope. They weren't as powerless as they had once believed. The PAX system was a game changer, and the balance of power was starting to shift. The battle raged for days, but in the end, Earth's forces emerged victorious. The Council's fleet had been decimated and their soldiers scattered. The humans had won their first major victory, But they knew that this was just the beginning. The Galactic Council would not give up so easily. As the dust settled and Earth's survivors looked upon the wreckage of the Council's ships, they knew that they had sent a powerful message to the galaxy. Earth was no longer the weak, helpless planet it had once been. With the power of Pax and their newfound unity, humanity had proven that they were ready to fight for their freedom. And they would not back down. The Galactic Council, still reeling from their unexpected defeat, was no longer sure of their dominance in the galaxy. Earth, a planet they had once dismissed as weak and insignificant, had proven to be far more dangerous than they could have imagined. The Pax system, an artificial intelligence developed by humanity, had shattered their fleet and left them in disarray. The Council was not used to losing, and the thought of a planet so far beneath them standing up in rebellion was something they could hardly accept. In their arrogance, the Council had underestimated Earth, and now they knew they were facing a force unlike any they had encountered before. The news of Earth's victory spread quickly throughout the galaxy, and many of the Galactic Council's allies began to question their loyalty. If humans could defeat such advanced technology, what was stopping them from challenging the rest of the galaxy? The Council needed to act swiftly. They couldn't afford another defeat. They had to crush Earth's rebellion before it grew too strong, or else their entire empire could crumble. To make sure Earth was dealt with once and for all, the Council called upon its most elite forces. These were not just ordinary soldiers or commanders. These were the High Commanders, beings of extraordinary power and skill, feared and respected throughout the galaxy. Each High Commander was known for their ruthless efficiency in eliminating threats. If anyone could stop the humans, it would be them. The High Commanders assembled in the Council's war room, a vast chamber filled with holographic maps of the galaxy. The room was silent as the leaders of the Council discussed their strategy. They could no longer underestimate Earth, but they still believed that their superior technology and military might would eventually win the day. The humans had only won because of Pax, they reasoned. If they could neutralize the AI, Earth would fall back into submission. The decision was made. The High Commanders would personally lead the next assault on Earth. Back on Earth, the Resistance was preparing for what they knew would be the hardest battle yet. The victory over the Council's fleet had boosted their morale, but they knew that they couldn't rely on Pax alone. It had been a powerful weapon, but it had its limitations. The Council's new forces would be far more advanced, and their tactics would be much more sophisticated. The Resistance had to prepare for the worst. In the months that followed, the people of Earth came together as never before. The nations of the world, once divided by borders and old conflicts, now united with a single purpose: to protect their planet. People from all walks of life, farmers, teachers, engineers, and soldiers, came together to train, share knowledge, and build new weapons. Humanity's resilience and resourcefulness were their greatest strengths. The Resistance leaders knew that they couldn't face the Council head-on. They needed to be smart. The Council's forces were vast and powerful, but Earth had the advantage of knowing its own terrain. Every forest, every mountain, every city was part of the battlefield now. Humans had adapted quickly, using guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and surprise attacks to even the odds. They would use the environment to their advantage, striking swiftly and disappearing before the enemy could retaliate. In the midst of all this preparation, a quiet confidence began to spread across the planet. Earth was no longer a helpless world at the mercy of the Council. Humanity had tasted victory, and they were determined to hold on to it. The Resistance had proven that they could defeat the Council's advanced fleets once, and they were ready to do it again. Then the day came. The High Commanders, leading the most powerful fleet the Council had ever assembled, arrived in Earth's orbit. Their ships were massive, their weapons capable of annihilating entire cities with a single strike. But the humans were not afraid. They had faced worse odds before, and they knew that this time they had something even greater on their side: unity. The first wave of the High Commander's forces landed on Earth, their ships descending from the skies like dark omens. They expected the humans to retreat, to hide, but they were met with resistance at every turn. The battle was unlike anything the Council had faced. The humans, armed with new weapons, fought with a desperation and strength that surprised even the most experienced alien commanders. It wasn't just the weapons that made the difference. It was the will to survive. The humans fought not for glory, not for riches, but for their home. Every person who fought in the resistance knew that if they lost, their world would be destroyed, and their people would be enslaved. That thought made them fight harder, fight smarter. The battle raged for days, but despite the overwhelming firepower of the high commanders, the resistance managed to hold their ground. Every victory, no matter how small, was a victory for humanity. The high commanders, accustomed to crushing their enemies with ease, were now finding themselves frustrated and even defeated. As the high commander's forces retreated, battered and bloodied, the humans stood tall. They had shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. Earth, a once forgotten planet, had become a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Council was not finished, but they now understood that the humans would not go down without a fight. The spark of rebellion that had started so small was now a blazing fire that could no longer be put out. And as Earth's forces prepared for the next battle, they knew one thing for sure: they would never give up. They would never stop fighting for their freedom. The Galactic Council's latest attempt to conquer Earth had failed, leaving their elite high commanders humiliated and retreating. For humanity, this victory was a symbol of hope, but the war was far from over. Earth knew the Council would return, stronger and angrier. The resistance leaders convened in a hidden bunker to discuss their next move. "We can't keep fighting alone," said Commander Elena Morris, one of the Resistance's most respected leaders. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed the weight of the war. "The Council controls half the galaxy. If they focus all their power on us, we won't survive." Dr. Raj Patel, the scientist behind the PAC system, nodded thoughtfully. "What we've done so far is incredible, but you're right. We've stretched their forces, not defeated them. We need allies, other species who've suffered under the Council's rule." The room fell silent. It was a bold idea, but also a risky one. Humanity had barely started exploring the galaxy before the Council's invasion. Reaching out to other planets could expose Earth to new dangers, but the alternative, facing the Council alone, was even more dangerous. After some debate, the leaders agreed. A small team would be sent to find potential allies. Their mission: locate civilizations that oppose the Council and convince them to join the fight. The journey to the stars. Captain Adrian Vega, a skilled pilot and war veteran, was chosen to lead the mission. He was joined by Dr. Patel, who would use his expertise in alien technology to establish communication, and Kayla, a former smuggler who had once worked on the fringes of the galaxy and knew its dangers well. Their ship, the Aurora, was outfitted with the best stealth systems Earth had, designed to avoid detection by the Council. As the Aurora launched into space, the crew felt the weight of their mission. They were humanity's first ambassadors to the galaxy, but instead of peace, they carried a plea for help. Their first stop was the planet Gorak, a world known for its warrior culture. The Gorakians were a proud and fiercely independent species, but they had suffered greatly under the Council's rule. Their lush forests had been stripped for resources, and their people enslaved. When the Aurora landed, the team was met with suspicion. The Gorakians towered over the humans, their armor gleaming under the planet's twin suns. Their leader, Warlord Kran, stepped forward. His gaze was cold as he spoke. "Why should we trust you, humans? You are small, fragile. What can you offer us?" Adrian stood his ground, his voice calm but firm. "We may be small, but we've already defeated the Council's forces twice. We've created weapons that can disable their ships. Together, we can take back your freedom. And ours." Kran studied Adrian for a long moment. "You've proven your courage by coming here. But courage alone won't win this war. Show us what your people are capable of." The team demonstrated the PAC system, using it to temporarily disable a council surveillance drone that had been monitoring Gorak. The Gorakians watched in awe as the once menacing drone fell from the sky, powerless. Kran's expression softened. "Perhaps you are not as weak as you seem, humans. Very well. We will consider your alliance, but only if you prove your strength in battle." The test of strength. The Gorakians were under constant attack from the Council, which sought to punish them for their defiance. Just days after the humans arrived, a Council fleet appeared in Gorak's skies. This was the perfect opportunity to prove their worth. Adrian and Kayla worked with the Gorakian warriors to plan an ambush. Using their knowledge of terrain and stealth, they set traps for the Council's forces. Meanwhile, Dr. Patil activated packs, ensuring that the Council's ships would be vulnerable when the battle began. When the Council's troops landed, they were met with a ferocious counterattack. Gorakian warriors, armed with weapons enhanced by human technology, struck with unmatched precision. The humans coordinated the assault, using their experience in guerrilla warfare to outmaneuver the enemy. The battle was brutal, but by the end, the Council's forces were in retreat. For the first time, the Gorakians had not only defended their home, but had driven the invaders away. Warlord Kran approached Adrian after the battle, his expression filled with newfound respect. "You are not like the others who have come to this galaxy, seeking to exploit us. You fight with honor. The Gorakians will stand with Earth." The first step. With the Gorakians as allies, the humans had taken their first step toward building a coalition. But they knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were countless other civilizations suffering under the Council's rule. As the Aurora prepared to leave Gorak, Adrian looked out at the stars. "This is what the Council fears," he said quietly, "a united galaxy. They've ruled through fear and division, but now we're starting to come together. This war isn't over, but for the first time, I think we can win." With renewed determination, the crew of the Aurora set off to find more allies, knowing that the fate of Earth and the galaxy depended on their success. The victory on Gorak was only the beginning. With the Gorakians joining the fight, humanity had proven that alliances with other civilizations were not only possible but essential. The coalition, the alliance of Earth and its new allies, was born. But as the coalition grew, so did the risks. The Galactic Council, aware of the shifting balance of power, began to take drastic measures to crush this rising threat. Adrian Vega and his crew, now celebrated as heroes, traveled across the galaxy, building more alliances and offering hope to the oppressed worlds. Every victory, no matter how small, made their cause stronger. The coalition's message was clear: freedom was worth fighting for. Their next stop was the planet Voltra, home to a race of beings with the ability to manipulate energy. The Voltrians had long been under the thumb of the Council, their powers exploited for military purposes. Many of their people had been taken as slaves, their energy used to fuel the Council's weapons. But the Voltrians had never given up hope. When Adrian and his team arrived, they found the Voltrians in a state of unrest. There were whispers of rebellion, but fear kept many from acting. The Council's agents were everywhere, watching, waiting for any sign of defiance. Adrian knew that gaining the Voltrians' trust would be difficult, but he also knew that their energy manipulation abilities could turn the tide of the war. As they met with the Voltrian leaders, the tension in the room was thick. The Voltrians had suffered for so long that their patience had worn thin, but there was a deep suspicion of outsiders, especially humans, who they had never seen as true equals. "We have nothing to gain from this war," said Prime Leader Isha, her voice cold. "The Council has destroyed our cities, enslaved our people, and taken our most precious resource, our energy. Why should we trust you to save us?" Adrian stepped forward, his gaze steady. "Because we are the ones who are fighting for freedom, just like you. We've already freed one planet from the Council's grip, and we can do the same for you. Together, we can break their control." Esha studied him for a long moment before speaking again. "Prove it." The test came swiftly. The Council had placed a high-tech surveillance system over Voltra to keep an eye on its people. Isha challenged Adrian and his team to disable the system without being detected. If they succeeded, the Voltrians would join the coalition. If not, they would be sent back to Earth empty-handed. Adrian's team, with Kayla's knowledge of stealth tactics and Dr. Patel's understanding of alien technology, carefully infiltrated the Council's system. They worked under the cover of darkness, using the skills they had honed in previous battles to avoid detection. But the stakes were high. If they were caught, the Voltrians could be punished, and their rebellion would be crushed before it ever had a chance to begin. Hours passed as they worked through the system's defenses, but finally they reached the central control hub. Dr. Patel quickly interfaced with the alien technology, activating the PAC system to disrupt the Council's surveillance. The system began to malfunction, and soon the entire network was shut down. The Voltrians watched in awe as their sky cameras flickered and went dark. Isha's expression softened, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that Earth's alliance might be the key to their freedom. "You have done what no one thought possible," Isha said. "The Voltrians will stand with you." With their new allies in hand, the coalition's forces continued to grow. The next step was to organize a full-scale assault on the Council's strongholds. They knew that the battle would be difficult, but they now had the strength of multiple species behind them. The war was no longer just about Earth, it was about the galaxy's freedom. Preparing for the final strike, the coalition gathered its forces in a hidden system far from the Council's reach, planning their next move. The Voltrians would provide energy manipulation to disable the Council's weapons, the Garakians would lead the charge in direct combat, and Earth's forces, led by Adrian, would coordinate the attack. Together, they were stronger than ever. The coalition's leaders met in a war room aboard the Aurora. The stakes were higher than they had ever been. "This is it," Adrian said, his voice resolute. "The Council is powerful, but divided. We have the chance to strike at the heart of their empire and free the galaxy once and for all." The plan was simple: infiltrate the Council's main stronghold, located on a massive space station known as Nexus, and disable their control center. Without the control center, their fleet would be paralyzed, and their command structure would collapse. The coalition's forces would then move in and strike a decisive blow. Dr. Patel had already begun working on a way to infiltrate Nexus using the PAC system, which could disable the security systems and create a path for the troops. But there were still unknowns. Nexus was heavily guarded, and the Council would be expecting an attack. "We'll need to be quick, or the Council will have us surrounded before we can finish," Kayla warned. "But if we succeed," Esha added, "the galaxy will be ours to reclaim. We will finally have our freedom." The room fell into a tense silence. Everyone knew the risks. The battle to free the galaxy was about to begin, and there would be no turning back. Adrian turned to his crew and allies. "We've come this far together. We will see this through, no matter what. This is our moment to change the galaxy. Let's make it count." The final strike was coming, and the fate of the galaxy rested on the shoulders of the brave men and women of the coalition. The war was far from over, but with each new ally, the hope of victory grew brighter. The time had come. After months of planning, building alliances, and fighting back against the Council's forces, the coalition was ready for its final assault. The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands. Earth, the Garakians, the Voltrians, and the many other species who had joined their cause were united, determined to strike at the heart of the Council's empire. Adrian Vega, now a leader among the coalition forces, stood on the bridge of the Aurora, staring out at the vast expanse of space. He could feel the weight of the upcoming battle pressing on him, but there was no room for doubt. They had come too far to back down now. The plan was simple: infiltrate the Council's main stronghold, Nexus, and disable its central control center. If they could bring down the Council's command structure, their fleet would fall apart, and the remaining forces would be vulnerable. Dr. Raj Patel, now a trusted advisor to the coalition, had worked tirelessly to perfect the Pax system. It was their greatest weapon, a system that could disable enemy technology and give them an edge in battle. He was confident that it would work, but there were always unknowns in a battle of this scale. "We're ready," Adrian said, his voice steady. He turned to face the leaders of the other species in the room. "The fate of the galaxy is in our hands. Together, we can end the Council's reign of fear." Warlord Kran of the Gorakians grinned, his teeth sharp and ready for battle. "We have fought long enough. It is time for the Council to feel the fury of those they thought weak." Aisha, the Voltrian leader, nodded solemnly. "Our people have suffered enough. We will not let them win." With the strategy in place and every leader confident in their alliance, the Coalition fleet, now massive and strong, set off toward Nexus, the heart of the Council's power. The journey was long, and every passing moment felt like an eternity. But as they approached their target, the sense of purpose in the fleet's ranks was undeniable. They were ready. The final infiltration. The battle for Nexus began the moment they entered the station's atmosphere. The first wave of Coalition forces, led by the Gorakians, attacked with ruthless precision. Their strength and speed caught the Council's defenders off guard. Meanwhile, Earth's forces, under Adrian's command, worked with Dr. Paddle to infiltrate the station's security systems using the Pax system. Inside Nexus, the control center was heavily guarded. The Council knew this day would come, and they had prepared well. But the Coalition was smarter, faster, and more united. The Pax system disabled the station's security network, allowing the team to break through the outer defenses and make their way toward the heart of Nexus. As they fought their way deeper into the station, they encountered resistance, but each victory brought them closer to their goal. The combined forces of the Gorakians, Voltrians, and Earth's resistance overwhelmed the Council's defenders. For every shot fired, for every battle won, the Coalition grew stronger. Adrian led the charge, his mind focused on the mission. They couldn't afford to let up. The control center was just ahead, and once they reached it, the fate of the Council would be sealed. The showdown. As they entered the final chamber, they were met by the Council's high commanders, the most powerful leaders of the Council's forces. These beings had been responsible for countless atrocities, but now they were standing in the way of Earth's freedom. The battle was about to reach its climax. "You are too late, humans," one of the high commanders sneered. "The Council's power is absolute. You cannot defeat us." Adrian stepped forward, his voice full of conviction. "We already have." He activated the Pax system, and in an instant, the entire control center went dark. The high commanders, once so confident in their strength, now found themselves powerless. Their fleet, their weapons, their communication systems, everything was shut down. The Coalition's forces swarmed into the control center, and the high commanders, realizing their defeat, tried to retreat. But it was too late. The control center was theirs, and with it, the power to disable the Council's entire fleet. "This is the end of your reign," Adrian said, his voice calm but resolute. "The galaxy will be free." The fall of the Galactic Council. With the control center in their hands, the Coalition initiated the final phase of their plan. The Pax system disabled the entire Council fleet, rendering them helpless. The once mighty empire was now broken, its forces scattered and powerless. The Council's grip on the galaxy had slipped away, and now the Coalition had the chance to rebuild. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Worlds once enslaved by the Council's tyranny now saw hope for the first time in generations. The Coalition's victory was not just a military triumph. It was a message to every species under the Council's control. Freedom was possible. On Earth, celebrations erupted. The people who had once been seen as insignificant had now become the leaders of a new galaxy. Adrian and his team were hailed as heroes, but they knew that their victory was only the beginning. There was still much work to be done to ensure peace, rebuild what had been lost, and secure the future of the galaxy. As Adrian stood on the bridge of the Aurora, looking out at the stars, he felt a sense of accomplishment, but also the weight of responsibility. The Council was gone, but the galaxy was vast, and there would always be challenges ahead. Yet for the first time in history, the galaxy was united, not by fear, but by the shared desire for freedom. The coalition had won, but now, a new chapter in the galaxy's history was beginning. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was theirs to shape.